I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. The fallout from the storm recovery response has now cost one executive his job. With nearly 500,000 people still without power in our area, the head of LIPA, the Long Island Power Authority, is quitting. Michael Hervey has been the interim boss of the agency for 2 years. LIPA's failure to restore power to almost 50,000 customers has caused outrage. The New York Times is reporting that a big meeting at LIPA just 4 days before the hurricane lasted more than 2 hours. The storm was discussed for 39 seconds. Other meeting topics included hiring a branding consultant. Hervey's resignation won't have any immediate effect. He's holding on to his paycheck until the end of the year. Governor Cuomo, whose oversight of LIPA is being harshly criticized, had no comment. Neither Cuomo nor Mayor Bloomberg has had anything to say about the MTA refusing to refund customers' Metro cards for lost service, but some members of the MTA board are speaking up, saying the money should be reimbursed, and will call for a vote at a board meeting later this month. Meantime, Bloomberg is saying that gas rationing in the city will continue for at least 5 more days. New Jersey rationing ended yesterday. Well, a little bit of good news for New York. We may get a new saint. Dorothy Day, born in Brooklyn. She devoted herself to the Catholic worker movement. Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York is promoting her cause, saying she was like Saul on the way to Damascus. Her early life marked by a search for religion, an out-of-wedlock pregnancy, and an abortion before she was radically changed. Cardinal Theodore McClarick says of all the troubled people the church needs to reach out to, Dorothy Day was one of them. She died in 1980. The U.S. bishops now meeting in Baltimore endorsed her for sainthood yesterday. Cardinal Dolan is president of the Bishops' Conference, and as they meet, he is leading them to examine the best ways to promote the new evangelization. A top Catholic lay expert on evangelization is impressed.
I've never seen the American bishops so united or so courageous in kind of coming together to face some of the challenges that they're facing right now. I think the, HHS mandate has awoken the bishops and committed Catholics to the fact that, wow, we're really facing something here that isn't really friendly to the church. And it's also been an embarrassing discovery, and Cardinal Dolan spoke about this after this started to happen, that a lot of the Catholics aren't with us because, and he says it's our fault. We've had years of faulty catechesis. We haven't done our job in teaching the faith. And so now we're reaping what we sowed. We let bad seeds get sowed for many, many years, and we didn't do anything about it. And now we're reaping what we sowed. And a lot of Catholics now are thinking more with the mind of the world and the spirit of the age rather than the mind of Christ and the church and the Spirit of God. So it's been a wake-up call to us about, wow, we're experiencing now the negative effects of the pastoral negligence that's happened for so many years, where there was a reluctance to correct people who were teaching false things and a reluctance to remove people from positions in the church that were really undermining the Catholic faith of people. So it's been a sobering time and a serious time, but I think a lot of good's going to come out of it for the church.
The Pope's ambassador to the U.S. says the country's bishops and the church in America will play a major role in promoting the new evangelization. Archbishop Carlo Vigano says the U.S. has to take on a major responsibility at home and for the church worldwide. One example of evangelization, spreading the good news of the gospel throughout the world, is based in Brooklyn.
Tonight we're celebrating the 50 years of the Cruceño movement in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The Cruceño movement started in Spain, Majorca, Spain, in the 1940s. At that time, the popes were asking for the people to turn back to God. And a response to that call to come back to God was the Cruceño Cristiandad.
Joy is one of the first fruits of the Spirit, with peace, love, and joy. Therefore, it's not surprising that you should find a lot of joy, expression of joys, banners. Everything was colorful. This is a clear sign of true faith.
It's an occasion to give thanks to God for the movement, for this gift to the church, and especially here to the Church of Brooklyn, but also is to give importance to evangelization.
Al mismo tiempo que celebramos el pasado, tenemos que mirar adelante, al futuro. Y también esta celebración tiene que ser un compromiso de que vamos a ser auténticos cristianos.
Monsignor Vasquez has been a blessing through the Cursillo movement. He is so energetic, so passionate. He preaches with his actions. He's very humble, but very dedicated and very passionate about evangelizing the entire world. And that's what he transmits to us.
The Cursillo movement, for me, it was a surprise in the beginning. I mean, I didn't even know what the Cursillo movement, and I had the curiosity, and I talked with Monsignor Vasquez, and I told him I want to go and live those 3 days. And when I went, and it's the most beautiful experience I ever had in my life. We get together, we do prayers, we talk about our religious life, we talk about future plan. It's weekly, it has to be weekly, and once you get used to it, that's it. You don't wanna even miss one.
We share our faith with prayers and study and with action. Is everything that we receive, the love of Christ, we try to communicate to somebody else. We can't define what the Cursillo means because that's something that you have to live it.
Up next, rescuing some forgotten victims of the hurricane as Currents continues after the break. Welcome back. Pope Benedict has been deeply concerned about the horrible violence from the civil war in Syria and the flood of refugees. After a papal peace delegation could not get into Syria, the Holy Father sent a special envoy to Lebanon and the refugees. Now the envoy, Cardinal Robert Sarah, is saying that despair is widespread and tens of thousands of people, mostly women and children, are in dire need of the basic necessities of life. There's no end in sight for the war and a growing danger of it spreading. Now, Israel has exchanged gunfire with Syria in recent days, and this morning, Israel launched a major military operation against Hamas, the Palestinian group identified as terrorists by the U.S. The military leader of the organization was assassinated in a missile strike on his car while he was driving in Gaza. Now, this aerial video shows the actual strike on the car circled in yellow. An Israeli military spokesman says the hit follows a barrage of missile attacks launched by Hamas into Israel during the past 5 days. The Israeli Air Force also bombed more than 20 underground rocket launchers belonging to the terrorists. The Israeli campaign, dubbed Operation Pillar of Defense, is the biggest escalation of fighting between the two sides since an Israeli invasion of Gaza 4 years ago. Now, this video released by the Palestinians shows one of the Hamas attacks, an Israeli Jeep being hit with a rocket. The missile, moving from left to right on the screen, is just one of more than 115 launches by Hamas that prompted today's Israeli retaliation. And the Palestinians are now saying the killing of their military chief has opened the gates of hell. Israeli President Shimon Peres briefed President Obama on the attack, saying there is a limit to what Israel can absorb. Well, the president of China, Hu Jintao, in one of his last official acts, is presiding over the closing ceremonies of the Communist Party's Congress meeting in Beijing. Tomorrow, he's expected to introduce new leaders of the country, now with Xi Jinping becoming the president. For many young people in China, the country's economic success is leaving them with a difficult decision.
Lunch break at one of Beijing's top universities. And for many students here, leaving China after college is more than food for thought. Among them is 22-year-old senior Gao Yue, who is busy preparing. For this journalism major, going abroad is not about a higher living standard.
We are looking for the kind of free-speaking right in U.S. or other countries around. And I think the critical thinking is one of the most important part I want to pursue abroad.
She is hardly alone in planning her future outside China, despite the nation's rapid economic growth during a global slump. The Education Ministry says almost 1.5 million Chinese are studying abroad, with the number growing more than 20% every year since 2009. And billionaire entrepreneurs are moving away too, with one recent survey of 1,000 super-rich Chinese finding 60% of them are either in the process of immigrating or seriously considering it. As Beijing embarks a once-in-a-decade leadership change, observers say the opaque process of power transition is adding more uncertainty to a country already facing grave challenges: a widening income gap, a worsening natural environment, rampant official corruption, and the lack of free speech. Problems affecting both the successful and the hopeful, prompting many to leave China. The latest wave of exodus is helping Jing Boxie do brisk business. He runs personal development training centers in Beijing and Shanghai, preparing thousands of young Chinese to study abroad and charging them as much as $2,500 for a 6-week session. This 45-year-old came back to China in 2001 after studying and working in the U.S. for years. To focus on growing his company, he gave up his American green card 2 years ago.
It's very exciting, a lot of happenings here. And we do have the chance to make some impacts.
While he understands other people's reasons for leaving, Xie never regrets returning himself and remains optimistic about China's long-term success.
Even though we met a lot of problems, setbacks or whatever, and at one point, we're gonna be there.
But many in the younger generation may not want to wait that long, eager to jump through hoops now to pursue their dreams elsewhere.
Well, the dream of returning home to your own home is elusive for so many people in our area following the destruction wrought by the hurricane. Help for the homeless people are coming from Catholic Charities and other organizations, but there's another group of homeless victims of the storm who don't always get help, at least not right away.
We're going to have cat food at the corner of Moreland and Midland.
Robert Messeri is on the move. On this day, he and his team from Guardians of Rescue are in Staten Island, trying to find, feed, and save pets lost or abandoned during Superstorm Sandy.
We're going to leave you kitty litter, we're going to leave you dog food and cat food.
Robert's team has rescued 100 cats so far. He says residents underestimated the amount of water the storm would bring, so pets either drowned or ran far from home to escape the rushing water. Of those found,
many of them are suffering from stress to start. Some of the cats had blood in the urine, some of them had internal injuries, some of them had exterior wounds. We found several cats with seawater in their lungs.
It's a big job, which is why Robert called on his friend Hush, a hip-hop artist from Detroit. Hush is a rapper, but he's also an animal lover who has helped animal rescue efforts in his hometown. Hush's contacts in Detroit donated nearly 8,000 pounds of dog and cat food. Then he drove 12 hours through the night to New York to help Robert's group.
What worries you most about the pets that are probably out there?
Being displaced, and just being out of their element. They're probably freaking out.
Hush and the volunteers went door to door looking for pets that may have been left behind.
Okay, come on, we got plenty of food.
And dropping off food and supplies.
Thank you very much. That and dogs are going to be very happy too.
Along the way, they picked up whatever pets they could find.
We're going to put them in this carrier.
That's good.
Okay?
I'm so glad.
It's all right, baby. It's okay.
This house is typical of this Midland Beach area of Staten Island. You can see the big red sticker here on the front door. It says unsafe area. So clearly somebody came by to check the home. They found it to be unsafe, but whoever that was probably wasn't looking for cats or dogs. They were looking for humans and to check on the condition of the home. But when we pulled up, we did find a group of 4 cats eating from this cat food here. So obviously somebody left this behind for the cats. The question is, though, how long will they be able to survive on this food, and will somebody be able to save them before this food runs out?
Robert marks the house so they know to come back for the cats. If they find them, they'll try to catch them. Otherwise, they'll set humane traps to save them.
They can't talk, they can't say, hey, my owner left me behind. Or, hey, I'm stuck, I have nowhere to go, I need food.
Like this cat, who was hungry and alone. We were finally able to coax her out of an abandoned house.
She's starving. She's eating so fast.
Eventually, she was put in a cage.
All right.
She'll be held in foster care until the owner can move home again, or she'll be put up for adoption. After a terrible storm that took so much from so many, a reason to be thankful.
CNN's Randy Kay on Staten Island. Up next, the Catholic schools of Brooklyn and Queens after the storm. Details as Currents continues after the break. Earlier in the program, we reported about Cardinal Dolan and the meeting of the U.S. bishops. Now, during his opening address to the gathering, the Cardinal suggested that reinstituting the practice of abstaining from meat on Friday as an act of penance was worthy of further reflection. Meantime, the bishops have selected new leaders for the conference, including Bishop Gregory Mansour of the Maronite Church here in Brooklyn. He'll serve on the board of directors of Catholic Relief Services. Well, relief is coming to many of the students in our diocese. Finally, they were displaced by the damage done to schools by the storm. Now, today I sat down with the superintendent of schools for the diocese, Dr. Thomas Chadzuko, and asked him for the latest status.
As we sit here this afternoon, we were able to open up St. Helens in Howard Beach this morning. The pastor and the principal welcomed the families, and it was a great opportunity for them to rebuild community, to really come back to a place that they feel safe and they feel comfortable with. We're still working very closely with Ave Maria in Howard Beach. Okay. We have done all of the appropriate testing and all of the things that need to be in compliance, and we're just waiting for a final okay to move ahead with the opening schedule for tomorrow. Okay. We've also been very, very well received when we had the parent meeting at St. Camillus this past Sunday. The parents turned out, filled the church because they were concerned about their children and what will be done for their children. And as a result of the collaboration again between Ave Maria and St. Camillus, we're able to now relocate the children from St. Camillus via bus up to Ave Maria. So their teachers, their principal, their staff, all intact, will come up from St. Camillus into Ave Maria. Okay. And we will have, for the first time in this diocese, a school within a school, two communities working together. But it's a true test of collaboration. And then finally, we are working with St. Rose of Lima, who again suffered a lot of more water damage. But here again, the community came out in full force on Sunday. And there we're just waiting as we speak now for the air quality test, and we're ready to move tomorrow to possibly reopen because we just need to get that. Francis de Sales, we are continuing to work with Sister Pat Chelios, the principal, and Monsignor Brown. Many of the families at St. Francis de Sales have really relocated throughout parts of the diocese, and they have gone from places like Good Shepherd all the way out to Bay Ridge. But we are working on a recovery plan at Simon and Jude, which would be a relocation site for the families, and we will also begin to provide bus service. That plan will be finalized by the end of this week and then presented to the parents in a timely fashion so that they have the opportunity to get their children to school. Okay.
I appreciate that you talked a lot about compliance, because for a lot of these parents, there are some safety concerns and some safety issues. So I'm sure there was a huge checklist of things that you had to go down to make sure that the environment was safe for the children, for the faculty, and for the staff. Once you've established that these children are in school and you try to begin the process of teaching, how do you explain to them or talk to them about the fact that this was a very serious situation? Will there be some kind of counseling available?
I like what I've learned over the past couple of weeks, and we use it a lot, but I'm going to go back to the word collaboration. Here in the diocese, we have the Program for the Development of Human Potential. We call it PDHP, and it's an overarching program that provides counseling to our schools, to our principals, to our teachers, and to the students. Yesterday morning, my Deputy Superintendent, Anthony Bisione, and Eileen Dwyer, who is the Executive Director of PDHP, sat at Ave Maria with the two faculties, talked with them about what they personally have gone through in their lives. How do we welcome the children back when they come to us? What do we speak with them about? Anthony also developed some lesson plans and how to deal with natural disasters. How do you go through a process of not just going back to teaching math or English language arts, but the personal or the pastoral component. She also went over with Anthony to St. Helens yesterday. Similar process of pre-intervention before the teachers are faced with the children, and the same thing that will occur at St. Rose of Lima. So we really put into place counseling, accessibility, We've given them teachers tools to begin to address the issues and allow the children to really have the opportunity to dialogue and discuss the matter.
In terms of financial donations, and to what extent do you receive any financial assistance from donations from volunteers? Where do you get the bulk of the money you need to rebuild and restore?
I'm going to answer that in a couple of ways, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
I'm going to start first with the overarching outreach of our pastors and principals throughout the Diocese of Brooklyn. They've been phenomenal. And every email or every text message or anything that comes across our desk in the office of the superintendent is, how can we help? And I think that's, as they always say, you start at home. And they have been fantastic. We've also received a lot of calls, many emails from other dioceses and archdioceses throughout the country. And I think it truly shows that we are the Catholic Church, and we look to each other. And they have been saying, how can we help? And again, the same question, how, when, what do we need? And here, even with our own diocesan agencies, the Catholic Foundation, led by Monsignor Jamie, and Futures in Education, have already begun to set up scholarship programs for the children. We are still really assessing the need, because until we can reopen the schools, until we can find out what the needs are, this will probably be an ongoing process.
And Tom, really quickly, how are you powering the schools that are reopening? Where is the electricity coming from? Is it generators or other power sources?
A couple of the places power has been restored, and that's a critical piece of this, because again, here working with the leadership over here at DeSales Media, especially Vinny and his team. Vinny's been great.
We're proud of Vinny.
He's a great gentleman.
Yes.
Never knew him until, again, we were hit with this. But he's been working 24/7, and he was finding, if we need a generator, we're just now talking about heating units. Anything that we've asked for, Vinny has been able to, again, to utilize the services. So I'm very proud of how well organized and how, sorry to say, collaborative we are, where everybody worked together.
But it sums it up.
It's for the children.
It's for the children. And I just want to say really quickly before we wrap up, you suggest that for parents that want more information, that they log on to the specific school's website, and the principals will be able to offer them the information.
Exactly. And also, if children have been relocated in other schools throughout the diocese, whatever press releases or statements we post, we ask the principals to please share that with their families.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share the story.
And coming up next, the Pope and his brother at the Sistine Chapel, as Currents continues. Welcome back. To astrologists, today is a big day, a total eclipse of the sun. Only one problem, though, at least for us anyway. It was visible from just a small strip of land in Australia. So tens of thousands of sky watchers traveled to northern Queensland. An eclipse is when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun, leaving the affected areas on Earth, in this case a portion of Australia, in complete darkness with temperatures dropping. Now, if you didn't make it there today, don't worry too much. You'll have another chance in March of 2015 when the next total solar eclipse occurs, and that one will be visible throughout Europe. Meanwhile, a rare occurrence in the other day in Rome. The Pope attended a concert where the musical work Mass of the Holy Year was performed. What was unusual, the Pope's relationship to the composer.
With the Sistine Chapel as a backdrop, Benedict XVI attended a concert along with a small group of guests. But this concert was unlike any other. The music played was composed by the Pope's brother, Georg Ratzinger. The Pope's brother sat in the audience as the Sistine Chapel Choir sang his composition, led by Salesian Massimo Palombella. Experts believe his music reflects an influence of Beethoven and Wagner. At the end of the concert, the Pope didn't give a speech as he usually does so as to not impose his personal opinion. Instead, they all simply gathered for the group picture. But the Pope did thank the choir and his brother for what he described as a musical gift just in time for the Year of Faith.
And thank you for joining us. Be sure to be here on Thursday as storm cleanup continues. What are the health dangers? Well, we'll bring you the answers on Thursday's edition of Currents. Until then, visit us online at currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.